David Colgan. I have been using Vim for like 10 years, I guess, at this point, so I'm a big fan, and I'd like to show you some stuff today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys. Thanks to HashRocket people for setting up this meetup. I've enjoyed all the ones that I've come to so far, so excited to talk here tonight. So the title of the talk, as you can see, is My Client Gave Me Data in a Word Doc, Cleaning Up Messy Text with Vim. So I am a freelance web developer. I have a little company called Less Boring. I've been doing this for like 5 years professionally at this point, and something that comes up a lot in my work is munging data, massaging data, cleaning data, whatever you want to call it. Someone will give me some data in an Excel spreadsheet or something and say, put this in the database. And knowing Vim has proven very helpful in that many times. And so tonight I'd kind of like to share a story that happened a few years ago that's mostly true. Some details have been changed to protect the innocent and the not so innocent. But once upon a time, I was sitting at my computer. Suddenly I got an email from a client who wanted me to do a site for him. He said, "Dear David, I want to build a website that gives out shady online Vim certifications. People will pay $1,000 and answer multiple choice questions about Vim. If they get more than 60% correct, they will get a printable diploma with their name on it. I think this idea has great potential." He wanted to certify people with real life certification boards. "I need it by the end of the day today, and my budget is $45. Are you on board?" Your friend, the client. I was like, oh my goodness, a job. This is excellent. So I said, of course, dear the client, thank you for considering me for your project. Your timeline and price are very reasonable, and I'll get started right now. Please send the questions in a format that is easy to parse. Foreshadowing. Your friend, David. So we talked some more, and he was like, okay, I'll do that. And we talked back and forth, got some more requirements, and we decided that the database for this website was going to be this very, very simple schema. This is Django, Python. Hopefully it's somewhat understandable. It's basically the same as a Rails active record type dealy thing. And we decided that a question is a table in the database that it has a number, which is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which question it is in the sequence, and the text of the question. And then an answer has a foreign key to question and a number of which answer it is, so like 1, 2, 3, 4 inside of that question, the text of the answer, and is the answer correct. This is equivalent to this SQL, if you speak SQL. Not the most elaborate, robust schema ever. The real one had more stuff in it, but this works for our purposes here. So it was time to get to work. It's time for a coding montage of me coding the website really fast here. So we put some good music up. And where is get my code editor out here and type the entire website really, really fast because I only have 1 day to finish this website, and it's very important that you go fast because clients are sometimes very unreasonable. And so I'd like to take this opportunity to talk to you guys about speed in your programming and stuff. There are 2 things that I tell everybody who's trying to start out as a coder that can really help you is learn a good text editor because it can help you go really, really fast, and also learn how to type quickly and without looking at the keyboard because it can help you go really, really fast when you are typing, and it can help you get your ideas onto the screen faster and all of that and good stuff. So, okay, I think I'm finished with this, and okay, we can stop that now. Let's see if it works. Oh man, first try. There we go. And so what that did for us is I made this lovely little website. As you can tell, I am a CSS master. This is part of the site that we made for him. It's not the most elaborate thing ever, but you can click on things and you can see what the correct answer was. So, okay, I'm thinking, we're good. The site is mostly done. All I need is to get the data from him. So later that same evening, because we are on a time crunch, he sends me this email and said, here you go. I'm sure it's in the best possible format for you to just shove directly in the database or from the client. And then I look at the bottom of the screen, and what do we see? But it is that lovely file extension .docx. And, this is the time when we have some cats. You have to have a cat in every good presentation. I couldn't just pick one. But, so, he couldn't choose an Excel spreadsheet, or he couldn't choose a CSV file or something that would be nice like that. He had to choose Word. So, okay, fine. Let's inspect the document. So I open my email, and here's what we got. Questions for Vim certification, top secret, do not steal. Okay. And so we got some good questions here. I guess they've got the number for each question. They got 4 answers. They have a lot of quotation marks. If you've ever worked with people who copy and paste things from Word, you may have dealt with fancy smart quote marks, which always seem to be rendered incorrectly. We've got like 40 of them. So that's not a huge data set. I think this is manageable. We can handle this. And so first thought for how to enter this. Django, what the web framework we're using here, has this lovely admin interface that lets you directly put data into the website by a web form. So, okay, there's only 40 of them, so we can, just kind of go in here. Okay. Okay, the first question, let's go down a little bit. So kind of go like this. Copy. Question. This is what, the third one now, I guess? So we'll save that. We'll go back and now enter the answers in. So we'll add, okay, so we're gonna go like, this is there. Go like, okay, yeah. This is the first question, or answer, I mean. Go like that, save and add another. So, it's a really, really powerful system. We can kind of go like this. Oh, and this is the correct, he bolded the correct answer. So, using the word formatting in order to convey meaning, it's always helpful. Save and add another one. Okay, keep going in here. Okay. One more. Okay. Last one. Okay, I think that. Now we go there we go. Okay, cool. Now we've added 1. This is obviously not going to scale very well. I guess I could do that 40 times, but I'm lazy. And as Larry Wall once said, laziness is one of the great virtues of all good programmers. So we're going to use something more powerful than that. Now, in something like this, it is often useful to reference this XKCD comic. If you're familiar with XKCD, it's a very good thing to spend time on. But there is a saying that goes, there is an XKCD for every situation. And so this lovely chart was published a while back that talks about, is it worth your time to automate something? And the idea here is the more time that you take off of the task that you're trying to automate, the more valuable it is to spend time doing that. So if you spend 1 second every year on something, if you spend more than 5 seconds trying to automate that, you're wasting your time. If you do something, like every day, 50 times a day, and it takes 1 second. No, I'm reading this backwards. How does this work? If you shave off 1 day from something that took you a whole day and you automate it completely, and you do it 50 times a day, you can spend 9 months working on it before it stops being a good return on investment. And so, and other things like that. So if you do something a lot, it's worth spending time to automate it. But if you don't do something very much, it's not worth spending time to automate on it. And so in this case, we've got a one-time data import. And I would say that this is somewhere between, we could enter it all by hand, but that would be way too slow. We could write some kind of big program to parse this file, maybe write a Python script or something, or a Ruby script or whatever, but that might take a lot longer than would be necessary. So I would argue that this is a good opportunity to just use Vim to insert this data in a one-time, one-off fashion. This guy agrees with me. And so, let's see, what's next? Okay. Now we'll begin the demonstration portion of our evening here. If we go back to this document here, the data is in a fairly regular format. You've got like the number, you've got the text of the question, you've got your answers, you've got a bolded answer for the correct answer, which we may have to do something about, but it's in a fairly regular format. So what I'm going to do is open up Vim and just paste all this in here. And if we compare these, we could see that it looks like it removed the bullet points, which I guess is a good in this case, and pretty much got everything else. So we could do that. I might play around with export options or something. I also don't own a copy of Word, so this is OpenOffice, LibreOffice, which has gotten a lot better in the last 3 years, which makes me very happy. If this was 3 to 5 years ago, there might have been garbled characters in this and all that fun stuff, but I was happy that that didn't happen here. Let's see. And so the strategy that I used in this case, in this project back in the day, was to basically convert this block of text into an SQL insert statement in a repeatable way, and then just run this file to insert each of these questions in the database. You can argue whether or not this is an efficient use of time, but it kind of depends on what you're doing and how many things you've got. So my thought here is I want to take this blob of text and convert it into this blob of text. You've got, so you insert into table name, and then, I don't know if you're familiar with SQL, but your standard insert statement. You've got the columns, and then you've got what goes into each column. So we've got the question ID, the question number, and then the text of the question. And then for the answers, you've got the question ID, so the same number that's up here, and then the number of the question, 1, 2, 3, 4, the text, and then a true false, whether it's correct or not. And actually that should be zeros like this because we're using SQLite for this example. Yeah, so that's kind of going to be the goal. And so I'll just kind of give a little demonstration of some Vim editing, introduce a few concepts here, and we'll just see how this goes. So some of the first things that I'll explain is just kind of my favorite commands for moving around a file quickly. I use Control-U and Control-D a lot for page up and page down to just kind of get a large overview of the file. I also use the curly brace commands a lot, which let you go between paragraphs. It just kind of like searches for an empty line and lets you kind of go through those. I've actually bound those keys to more common keys, so I use that a lot to kind of go around. Yes?
So the page up and page down, is that like, if you're paging down, does that jump to the last character that's, or the last line that's visible, or where does that jump to?
That's a good question. It's like not quite the last line.
I thought it was the whole page divided by 2.
It might be something like that. Oh, actually, no, wait a minute. That's not page up and down. I just realized Control B and Control F is whole page up and down, I think. Is that right?
I think that one's half.
Yeah. One of them is half and one of them is full. And I used the smaller one, I think. So, yeah. Because Control B and Control F are kind of like what's happening. So, so those are those. And then you've got GG and Shift G to go to the top of the file and the bottom of the file. So those are just kind of a good way to get an overview of what's going on in here. So I kind of look through, and it looks like they are, in fact, all kind of in the same format. So we could try to clean this up. So first of all, we don't need these 2 top lines. So I'll delete those lines. And what was our conversion? OK, so we want to get it to look sort of like this. So first, I'll just try to do this for one of the questions. We want to do something like type in insert into core_question. what is it? Question, what was it again? ID, right. ID, number, and text. And then you type values, and then, okay, so this first number right here is something we could also use for the ID in the database, since these are the only questions we're putting in right now. If there are more questions later, that wouldn't work, but for now this will work. So we could kind of like copy this and then change this to be a comma and put the number back in there, put a comma there, and put a quote mark here, put a quote mark there, do something like this. So that has effectively converted the question part into an insert statement, and then we could kind of go like this, insert into for answer, stuff like this, and then we could go like yeah, something like that, and then like that's a 1, something like this. So we can run that and it'll go into the database. And so then the thought is, if we can do that for everything, that will allow us to effectively parse this entire file. So I'll kind of go a little slower now of what I was doing there. Some of the commands that I was using in that were rectangle edits. This is a really powerful feature that kind of does some of the same things that Sublime Text multiple cursors can do as well, where basically you can start a rectangle select by hitting Control V. And you can kind of use the arrow keys or the HJKL keys to kind of make a rectangle like this. And then you can do things with the rectangle. You can, like, if you just hit D, it'll delete the rectangle. You can like paste the rectangle in other places. But then you can also do things on each line. So if you make a thin rectangle at the beginning and you hit Shift-I, that will let you type something at the beginning, and then when you leave insert mode, it'll kind of put that in front of each line. You can also do that at the end of a line. Vim has this fun little feature where if you use the $ key, that will put your cursor at the end of the line, and it'll remember that you jumped to the very end of the line, so it kind of like hugs the edge. And so if you start a rectangle on the edge and then hit Shift-A for open, or for append, and then you put something at the end, it'll do that for all of them. So that can be very helpful when you're dealing with something like this, where you've got stuff kind of lined up, but it's kind of at different lengths on the ends. So that was kind of what was used up there. And then, yeah, you just hit escape, and that kind of ends the thing. You can also do copy and pasting like this, where if I wanted to, like, say I wanted to copy this right here, this block, I hit Y to yank or copy, and then you can go down here and you hit P to paste, and you can kind of stick that at the beginning of the line as well. Thank you, thank you. I mean, this is the power of Vim. You know, if I was typing this in manually in Notepad, this would take forever. But so then you can also use other fun commands like the dot command to repeat what you just did. Will that work? Yeah. So I can put several of these commands together, chain them together by doing something like, if I use my curly braces and go between paragraphs quickly, and if I go like that, sometimes it can be pretty fast to just kind of do this. If you've got a sequence of things, set no wrap. If you have a sequence of things that you need to do over and over again, and you can kind of train your fingers to do a sequence that's not too long, you can kind of get away with something like that.
When you do J when graph is on, mine skips the whole line.
Graph is on. That is true. Let's see, set wrap. Yeah, if anyone has any questions on anything that happens on your screen. Okay, this right here, I actually, let's see. What's my key mapping for that? I'm not gonna look that up. Basically, if you type, what is it, GK or GJ, it will not wrap.
So you have it bound.
Yeah, so I just
J,
bound
J,
those,
J.
right? Because that's usually what I want.
That is normally what I want too.
There you go.
It's gone.
If, let's see, I guess I have, yeah, so the question is like,
But then you can't ever undo it.
if you go, well, so I have arrow keys still bound to the normal way.
Yeah,
Yeah, so the thing is, on line 93 here, it wraps around, and normally the behavior is to just go to the next line. But if you type G and then down or up, it'll go to what looks like the next line. So that can be helpful. Let's see. So we could do that, but this is getting a little tedious. I don't really want to, and kind of error prone too, because like right there, I just messed it up. So sometimes these techniques you kind of get out of control, and then it's like, well, I just messed that up. But so another thing that we can then do is, let's see. I'm gonna come back here. There we go. Well, okay, so actually before I continue, I should address one thing. The correct answer was highlighted in bold in the document, and that didn't come through at all. So this is a thing that I recently discovered is possible, at least in OpenOffice. You can do a search and replace for formatting. If you type, let's see, if you go to attributes, font, weight, and you use a regex, I can search for, hello, oops. If you search for anything and replace it with, I'll put like a hash sign in front of it, $1. That will find bold and replace it with the thing with a hash sign in front of it. So that'll give us a little hook into it, and I guess I put it twice except for there, but yeah. The only thing you can't do in Vim is have bold text, so. Okay, so let's try that again then. Let's kind of re-import it. If I wanted to delete the entire file, I could go to the top, start visual line mode with Shift V, and then go to the end of the file with Shift G, and then delete. And so then I can paste again in here. Okay, so now there's a hash sign sort of in front of the correct answer, so I can kind of make use of that. And let's see. So it's kind of getting to the point where it's like, well, I could edit each question, but that would get a little tedious. So maybe we should start trying to do things on every question at once. So some things you can do to do that are you can do search and replace with regexes. You can do, and those can work pretty well. There's not really anything I need to replace here, so instead I'd like to use a macro. And macros are one of my favorite features of Vim that are really powerful. It basically lets you record a sequence of anything and then replay that sequence over and over again. So if I wanted to say insert some text or question like that, and then I wanted to do that in front of every question, I could, I would insert that and then go down and then go down one more. And then if I did the same thing again, insert into core question, this is kind of like a repeatable piece of operation. So I can, let's see, where am I? Here are some of the shortcut keys for macros. Basically, the Q key starts a macro in whatever register you type next. And registers are just like places where you can stick text. And there's a register for every letter of the alphabet on your keyboard. So if you type QA, that will start recording a macro in the A register. And so you can have like up to 26 plus a few more by just using a different letter for each one. So you can have multiple macros at once, things like that. And then you type Q after you're done to finish recording the macro, and then you use the @ sign to play the macro, and you can hit @ to play the last macro. So I'll demonstrate that. Basically, if I wanted to do what I just did earlier, I could type Q and then A, and then this little recording thing comes down at the bottom. And so then I'll go, starting on the number at the top, I'll go insert into core question, space, and then I'll use curly braces to go down, and then I'll go down one more, and then I'll stop recording the macro, and then I'll go @A, and it'll do that again. So I can hit @ to kind of keep running this. And if it's not fast enough, you can even give it a number of times to do the macro. So I'll say like 100 times, and it'll just like go all the way to the bottom of the file. And then if it ever gets to a point where it can't do the macro anymore, probably because you got to the end of the file, it'll just stop. So you can kind of give it a count of way too many, and then it'll keep doing the thing. So that kind of stuck the beginning that I want in front of all of them. And so you can kind of just transform the text gradually by doing multiple macros, or you could, if you really wanted to try, do one single macro that would transform the entire text at once. That could get a little error prone, because if you make one mistake, you have to like start the macro over. But let's see. I was going to try to actually do that live and see if this works. So I'll start a macro. I will insert some text. What is it? It's ID, number, text, values. OK, so then it's like, well, now what? I'm sitting on top of what I want the ID to be. So if I leave insert mode, I go over 1. And then I copy that 1, I'll have that 1 available later. So I'll go yank until I hit a period. And then I'll go to the period. I'll enter a comma, hit a space, leave insert mode, paste that again, find the period again, put a comma in, and go like that. So that works for single digits and multiple digits. So it's kind of like building a macro. You kind of have to think in terms of like, how can I repeat this this operation, because it'll just basically run the keys that you typed again. So let's keep going. So now I want to get to the end of the line. So I hit Shift-A to go to the end of the line and insert a quote mark. Go like that, put a semicolon. OK, so there's that. Then if I insert into core answer, here's another of my favorite shortcuts, is whole line completion. If you hit Control-X and Control-L, it'll search for any line in your current file, and it will fill in possible completions for that line.
Is that vanilla Vim?
Yeah, it is. So
Control-X.
Control, what's happening? Oh, I probably shouldn't do that. But macros can also handle your undos, so I don't think that will cause a problem right there. Did that just stink? I messed it up. This allows us to illustrate another point. A macro is stored in a register. So basically all it is a sequence of commands. So if you actually print out the value of the register, you could see all the commands that were just typed. Would you be able to close that blind, by the way? I'm kind of like right in the sun.
Turn that window off.
Or yeah, the window. Looks like it's right in there. Thanks. So this can be a way to kind of salvage a macro that you kind of messed up, but by kind of like editing this and then putting it back in.
How'd you print it?
If you want to see the value of a register, you can hit double quote, and then the register, and then P to paste.
So like double quote A.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
so that puts it into the kill ring.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
So you can also, well, this is actually something else that would be useful. is you can yank text into a register and then use that later as like a second clipboard. And you can have 26 clipboard things. So like if I wanted to copy this line, I could say double quote A, D, D. And then if I wanted double quote B, D, D, if I say double quote A, P, that'll put what I put into the A register. And then if I put double quote B, P, that'll do what I put into the B register. So, but the macros go into the same registers. And so that's how you can like print things that go into the macros.
Saves you like 30
Mm-hmm.
minutes.
Could you like do the question part,
Mm-hmm.
like the SQL for the question, in like record a macro in like register A,
Mm-hmm.
and then do one for the answers in register B,
Ah.
and then record something in the register C to do both of them, and then run. Like, can you have a
Can you
macro that
do
executes
that?
both ways?
I don't actually know. We could see.
Probably. Like, can you
At some point, they confuse themselves, I think.
Is there similar keys for
Something like that. Yeah. You kind of get a feel for macros by doing them for after a while, and if you do, yeah. Well, here, let's just try this.
do a whole project in macros, run a project real fast?
Let's try something like this. I'll start a macro in A that insert into core question. Do this, that. And then I'll do, well, how would you do that then? Start a macro in B and you go insert into core answer. So start A. Oh, and then
Because you have to have like specific reset points.
start C. I do A. Oh, actually, wait a minute. It does work. There you go. Because yeah, if you look in the contents of C, it's just that. Yeah. So I guess it does work then. There you go. And if you wanted to get really fancy and had,
Recursively macro?
yes, apparently so, because
Can I
this
see if you
macro
call
runs.
A from A?
You can recursively macro. I don't know what that would do. That might crash Vim. Let's try that at the end. Yeah, if you really wanted to, you could edit this by doing, I don't know, put more downs or something in there, and then stick this back into register C, and then if you ran it, it would do what you changed it to do, but that's kind of hard to visualize what will happen unless you're amazing at visualizing things, so that doesn't usually work too well. Okay, so all that to say, let's try to get this actually going. So I'll start a macro. I'll just do the different pieces. Probably do like a couple macros, do several passes over it, so I don't have to worry about typing things in. Insert into core question. I keep forgetting how this works. ID, number, text, values, 1. Yank till. So there's the T command and the F command, which jump you on top of something with F or right before it with T. Those are, I don't use those very much when I'm just typing in Vim, but they're very useful in macros for things like this. So I'll find that, I'll go there, paste it, find it again, like that, and then go down one like that. Okay, so that macro should work. Okay, so that gets all the questions. Then I'll go back up to the top. So then starting on the insert into, I'll start another macro in B. I'll go down one line, do the line completion, because this is always going to be the same each time. works. Okay, so then we'll go to the beginning of the line, go down one, start a rectangle select, and do something like this, I guess. Like that. And I think for this, I'm just going to put some placeholders in place for like the IDs, and then fix those in another macro that I'll do after this one. And then same with like the true/false value. I'll just do that. Use the dot to do that again. Place that with that. And that's a pretty good solid macro. So let's run that 40 times. Oops, wait, what did I just do? There we go. 40 at sign B. And it did everything that I did, including the line completion and bringing up the little completion box. But I think, did that work? No, it didn't. So sometimes you got to trial and error these things to see if they work. So sometimes also disabling word wrap helps because you don't have to worry about if some things are longer than a screen width. I think that may have been what happened there. Oh, no, it's not. Here's something that a macro doesn't like is auto-completion. I think that's what was happening there. It will get mad at you if you try to like line complete inside of a macro. And so it's just putting nothing there. Because if we look at the macro, what is it? Well, that doesn't help any. No, that is right. Okay. So let's just try that again real fast. This, yeah, and I'll try making the macro with word wrap off. So this was insert into core answer. Question ID number text is correct. Values. And actually, I'll just do that for the macro. Okay. So that gets us a little bit closer. And now I need to do this part down here. So starting again on something kind of just the beginning of the block, I'll start another macro. I'll go down 2 lines, do a rectangle select with some placeholders. Okay, that work. Oh, it's the wrong one. There we go. Okay, good. So we're slowly but surely transforming the text into something different. And so now we need to fix all of these numbers. So the first column should be fairly easy. I'll just 1, 2, 3, 4. If you hover over something and hit the R key, you can replace the character under the cursor, which can be useful in some cases. Here it's just always 1, 2, 3, 4 for all of these. So I can select those numbers and then kind of paste over them like that. Or do that if you're messing that up. So I may make that a macro as well. Down, 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 down. Looks like that worked. Cool. Okay, so now here, this will be a fun one. This number right here needs to match this number right here. So I have to somehow, in the macro, copy that number and put it over here. So I'll start another one.
2 open.
Yeah, so you could search for, well, I can't search for a 2. I have to search for something around it, kind of. Yeah, so if I search for a parenthesis, and I search for another parenthesis by typing F and then paren, and then doing that again, that'll kind of get you right in front of the number. Then if you say yank until a comma, now the number is in my clipboard. So I'll go back to the beginning of the line and then kind of, let's see, how would we do this? You could do something like, actually, will this work? yes. So if you've got something in your clipboard and you kind of select the rectangle and paste over it, it'll put it in each of those places. And I think that's basically all I need. So did that work? Looks like it did.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Thank you, thank you. Is that it? The only thing that's left then is to get the correct answer, which is designated by a pound sign. I picked that because I don't think there are any other pound signs in this data set, which you can kind of just see by, oh, no, that's not true. Great. There's a question about pound signs. Okay, so we'll just have to be smarter because it's always right after a quote mark. So in this macro, we can just say, yeah, so sometimes you can just kind of look for little blocks of text that don't mean something but are regular. So if you use the slash command, which starts a search, if I searched for, say, comma, space, quote mark, pound sign, that will always get me to the hash mark there in every question because it's always right after the quote mark, but it may be on a different line. So hit enter, there's that. Looks like that worked. So then I can just say, find that pound sign, delete it, and then go to the end of the line, find the 0 and turn it into a 1. And then go to the next question. And that will work for any of them regardless of what line they're on. Is that right? Yeah, it looks like it is. And there we go. Okay, so the moment of truth. I think this should now be a valid SQL file. And, uh-oh, what happened? No file name. Oh, I haven't saved this yet. I'm glad that that didn't crash. Always save your work, everyone. Okay, so lots of data. Oh, that was my previous attempt. Okay, now I'll try to load this. I will delete everything that's currently in there, and then with SQLite, you could just kind of like shove a file in like this if it's a bunch of SQL statements, and hopefully, oh, something happened. So, you know, in this at this point, it's kind of like, well, it's mostly working, so then just kind of keep going, fixing the syntax errors until it works. Which, you know, as you can tell, this might not work for something that was a lot bigger of a data set. If there were a million questions, it might be hard to kind of make sure that you got everything right. But a lot of the jobs that I've worked on had things that weren't too big. They're like, oh, just stick it in the database for us. And you can kind of eyeball it to hopefully make sure it's mostly correct. But what is this? Near S. And the problem here is single quote marks are inside of my strings, I think was this problem, because I had this happen before. Is that right? Yeah, that's the problem right there. So, whoa. Yes, and in SQLite, you put 2 quote marks instead of 1. And so, you know, going back to the flowchart, it's like I could write a macro for this, or there are only 5 problems, so I'll just go to those lines and fix them. Oops, manually. 177. Wait, what's wrong with this line? Near the S. Oh, what? Oops. Now I gotta delete those again. Uh-oh, what's wrong with this line? 44 near the T. Aha, I think.
It doesn't.
Does it? Wait a minute. Oh, maybe the line number is wrong. Yeah, I think that's right. So what I might do is search for a quote mark and an S. Well, I'll search for a word character, a quote mark, and an S. Like that. Aha, that was the problem in several cases. One more. Okay, it's almost there, guys. Almost there. Does anyone see it?
2 lines below.
Aha, yes. Very good. Ooh, okay. Almost there. Incomplete SQL, that's fun. Ah, yes. That one didn't have something after it. Hey! I think it worked, so let's test it out. Oh, on the server. So, and there it is. And did the answers get in? They did.
You can get $1,000 each head.
So
This
this.
is a good plan.
So as I said, this was loosely based on a true story. I did in fact make a website for shady online certifications that had something similar to this, and it didn't have too many more questions than this. So this technique actually worked fairly well, and it was just kind of a matter of running over the data in several passes and doing this kind of macro thingy, and so. It's always a trade-off of should you write a program to do this or should you just do it by hand or whatever. But this can be a nice tool in the toolkit if you run into a situation like this. So I would like to say that everything turned out well in the end, because later the same day, the client emailed me back and was all happy. But then he said, "Attached are 3,000 more questions. The authorities tell me that 40 is too few. I assume that because you used Vim as prescribed by David Colgan's talk, you can easily just rerun the macro you wrote." Well, I guess so. But as you can tell, you could probably just do this again and it wouldn't take that long. So if I was doing it in real time, this might take me 10 minutes or something. If I was using Notepad, it would take a lot longer. So that's what I've got. My name is David Colgan. You can email me at that address or go to that website or find me on that Twitter handle if you want. Any questions by anybody about anything?
Is it 10 years? You've been using Vim for 10 years?
Something like that, yeah.
How did you get into Vim?
I started out, we had a, what was it? COS 121 at my college was taught by a guy who really liked Vim, and he taught it in the class. And several of my friends were also using it in the class, and it was just kind of the cool thing to do. And I really enjoyed it because of how fast you can go with it. As you build up more commands, it just gets faster and faster to edit with. It's like, you start out, and if you only know a few commands, I would say that Vim is worse than Notepad because, all you have is moving around and the arrow keys, and you can't even copy and paste, and it's like, what is this editor? But, if you add, the ability to copy a line, then you can paste a line, you can delete a line, you have arrow keys, then you add searching, and then you add a couple more, and it just kind of snowballed as I learned more commands. And at some point it was kind of like, oh, now I'm fast with this editor. And then it was all uphill from there, I guess. But I suppose after a certain point, I didn't really learn too many more commands because it's kind of like, well, it's like I'm fast enough. But there are tons of commands in Vim.
What school is this?
I went to Taylor University in Indiana. It's a really small school, but it has a pretty good computer science program, so it was pretty cool. For a good intro to Vim, there's a tutorial that comes with Vim that is pretty good. I think I saw that HashRocket made their own Vim tutorial that is Star Wars themed. Is that right?
If you go to VimChi.com, our website.
Yeah,
you can
VimChi.
download our tutorial too.
.com. Yeah, I saw this. This made me happy.
VimChi. It's a good choice.
So yeah, I just kind of go through this. This will teach you some things. Where's the Vim cheat sheet? I used this for a while as well. It's just kind of like every key on the keyboard is a useful command. And if you learn all of them, you've got quite a few of the most powerful ones. There are some other really complicated commands you can do, like Control X, Control other things are commands, but this will get you pretty far because the most common commands are the easiest to type. So
What's your package manager?
I'm using Arch Linux here. So, oh, you mean Vim Package Manager?
Pacman is good too.
Yes.
Like pathogen.
Right. What am I using?
I've exclusively been doing pathogen.
I used a thing called Vim Archive Manager. It's like you put a little thing in your vimRC, and then you can do this, and then it loads everything from GitHub. Yeah, I think they're all basically the same. Some of them might have more powerful things, but yeah.
How do you show your keystrokes in your status?
Say that again?
How do you show your keystrokes in the status? Like maybe normal.
Oh, where it shows things down here? You mean like this kind of thing?
Yeah.
What is that? My vimRC is somewhat long, I guess. I think it's called show command. Yeah. If you set show command, that will happen. Yeah, I can post my vimRC if you want to see it. It's got some things in it that are useful, but I mean, I basically just when I started Vim was like, oh, I'll go find some other people's vimRC files and steal things that look useful. That's kind of where some of these came from, like show mode. Yeah, that puts the insert at the bottom here and things like that. But yeah. So there you have it. Thank you very much. Yeah.